All right. So it was road trip time, wasn't it, Dan?
I'm not Dan. I can be Dan if you want me
Who
to
the
be.
hell are you?
Hi, I'm Dan. No,
Not exactly.
No, no.
We're actually in Wexford, and I'm catching up with a good friend of mine, Kevin.
How's it going?
And Kev's got a lovely 1989 Les Paul Custom.
My baby. This is Betty.
It is a beautiful guitar.
Little beat up, little road worn, but it still does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, it's stunning. It's got that natural patina.
Yeah, of years of abuse and
Yeah.
years of playing in places before the smoking ban and all that stuff, and worn out. And she's been hot rodded. She's on her fourth or fifth set of pickups in here at the moment.
Right.
And it's a lovely guitar, and it's going to have to be pried out of my cold dead hands. Really.
That's what we like to hear. Exactly. So you've done a lot of work to this guitar.
I have, yeah. Between myself and a few other people, I've the pickups have been replaced, the tailpiece has been replaced, the pots and capacitors have been replaced. I guess the best thing to do is probably start at the pickups and work our way through.
Exactly.
These are built by a guy named James Finnerty at Rewind Electric Guitar Pickups. I think he's in Colorado now. Not 100% sure, but he's online. Free plug for Jim. Yeah, Rewind Electric Guitar Pickups.
I am now.
That's it. These were a giveaway pickup done a couple of years ago. I used to be a moderator of mylespaul.com, and they did a kind of a surprise giveaway. Jim did with basically, without knowing it, giving the specs that you wanted in a pickup.
Oh, brilliant.
And weirdly enough, I won. So the pickups were built exactly to my spec with my new details. I have my spec list here. I won't go through all of it, but
you're quite particular with your spec list.
I am, yeah. Like had I known what I was doing, because even though they're custom wound to me, for me, I didn't exactly know what the numbers I was spouting off were. I had an idea, so I was kind of in the same neighborhood, but I wasn't sure, so I was playing it safe. I would have done a couple things differently, but I'm actually glad I didn't.
Right.
Because between James, his knowledge and everything, I kind of let him run with it, and it paid off really well.
So you're using a 59 PAF sort of style of
PAF? Yeah, like a slightly hot PAF.
Right.
The bridge is gonna have a little bit more bite. I don't even like I'm looking at the specs, and it doesn't even. I didn't care. I wasn't going for like an 8.6 or 9. I didn't care about the DC resistance. That didn't bother me. What I wanted is I wanted the sound. And I had a set of pickups in here previously. Now I've gone the route. This originally came in '89. Came with the Bill Lawrence circuit board pickups, the HBL and HBR, which were great pickups. A lot of people really dig them. I unfortunately didn't like them. They weren't as open as I liked.
Some people love them, some people seem to hate them, and I don't know if that's because the actual pickups themselves weren't consistent. Because some people get them and say that they are the best things since a PAF.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was able to sell them off pretty easily, but I found they had a really compressed sound to them.
Right,
and I'm a creature of habit. Even though I like to think of myself as playing blues rock and classic rock, I keep going back to that 80s kind of
It rules,
the 80s hairband kind of stuff. And I wanted a pickup that did a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And the Bill Lawrence pickups for me just didn't do it.
Right.
So I went with a classic setup of a Seymour Duncan JB in the bridge. And I put a Gibson Burstbucker Pro in the neck.
Right, okay.
And that served me well for many, many years until the JB started to crap out.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have a distinct problem that a lot of guitar players have. I don't sweat, I rain.
The Angus Young problem.
Yeah, exactly. And the sweat off my hands and everything got into the JB pickup and basically rotted it from the inside. So and then the bridge pickup, my sweat was so bad I'd actually worn a hole in the corner of the metal cover. So when it was time for a change, I put in a set of pickups from an infamous pickup winder who I won't even mention his name because he doesn't deserve any credit, but because he took a lot of people's money and everything like that. But the guy could wind a hell of a set of pickups.
Yeah.
And anybody who is in the Les Paul world and has been for the last 8 or 10 years will know who I'm talking about. But I'll just, in the interest of not giving the guy any undue publicity, I won't divulge who it was. But I had those wound to my spec as well. They were, zebra coils. I kind of like the idea of a cream coil and a black coil.
Yeah.
They were a hot PAF as well. Okay. Now with the DC resistance with those, I did know that it was like about a 7.6 in the neck and an 8. Like an 8.6, 8.5, 8.6 in the bridge, and really complemented each other really well. And then when all the hullabaloo with him started, I kind of felt bad having the pickups in my guitar, so I sold them on, and I actually got a set of Scatterbrain pickups made by a guy named Rod Kincaid that at the time were, some of the better kind of low output PAF replica pickups out there. Again, more drama. Pickup winders. Jesus, they're either great or they're insane.
Peculiar, are they?
They're a peculiar lot. And the Scatterbrains weren't really speaking to me. So I went to a set of MHD pickups, Madhouse Designs, who were wound by a guy who originally worked for the first guy. And then there were problems with them as well. So out they came, and then I got these pickups from James Finnerty, and they've been brilliant.
And that's rewind pickups.
Yeah, rewind electric guitar pickups. They've stayed in my guitar for the longest of any set, other than the stock pickups. And if I remember correctly, James is an engineer, so by trade. I mean, that's what he started doing. So everything was meticulously gone through, and
you told me he actually bought a set of original PAS.
As far as I know,
big a large amount of some. And he pulled them apart.
Yeah, basically, and he's doing...
to dissect them.
He was doing humbuckers for the longest time. Now he does Strat sets and Tele sets, and, he does vintage rewinds and, like actual rewinding of pickups and stuff. And the guy's stuff, there are other manufacturers out there that are great. You'll hear stuff like Whiz pickups that are like kind of the benchmark now. The mythical Over the Pond guy pickups that, it's like a unicorn, people claim to have them. People say they have them. I've never played a set, but I know they're out there. I know they're really good. You can go the original PAF route, which I played, I like. But
P90s, which are the original sound. Just copied the P90.
I really dig P90s, but my hand-fisted style of playing, I can't really keep them under control, so I leave that to the P90 guys. And then working the way back, I have a pigtail. Okay, now depending on where this video is seen, it's either aluminum or aluminium, depending on which way you want to do it.
Aluminium.
Yeah, well, since I'm living in Ireland and talking to an Aussie guy, I might as well say aluminium. That's a pigtail aluminium tailpiece, which was cast off. If I remember correctly, I don't remember his surname. He's passed away now. Rest in peace, Steve. A pigtail. Built this off of an original 50s.
And you can see even the angle of that is a lot higher than a lot of the reproductions.
Oh yeah, and it's real lightweight aluminium. I've got the stainless steel studs in there that came with it.
Brilliant.
Now the pickups, I'm not sure about what Jim's prices are now.
Yeah.
I'd say a couple of $100. I'll get you set up with a decent set of pickups, $300, something like that. Like all the modifications I've done on this guitar, I wanted to burst. And I can't afford $250,000. So some of the purchases were frivolous, which we'll get to in a minute. Some of them had a little bit more thought involved. Some of it I bought into the snake oil. We
all did at one stage until you sort of sort it out for yourself. You buy a few 50s juniors and say, well.
Yeah, we all do. Yeah, we all do. Not a huge amount of difference. So I'll be controversial in a few minutes here, but we'll get there.
You want to give us a bit of a sound sample of the pickups after mentioning them, and then we'll go through the other
What I'll do
specs.
is I'll put it on clean here so you get an idea. Now, a Les Paul pickup, everybody thinks they're supposed to sound meaty, but really a traditional Les Paul sound was kind of like a Tele on steroids. It's meant to have a bit of quack. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not using a boutique amp. I'm playing through a Roland Cube 80, so it is going to have a solid state sound. But you got your, that's your bridge pickup. And you got your two pickups together, give it a nice full sound. Sorry, I've got frequency buzz. The one string there, and then you've got your neck pickup. So you get a nice mix of tones out of it. Now what I've done, again, controversially, is I'm a firm believer in top wrapping.
Love it myself, yeah.
My tailpiece, my strings are wrapped over the tailpiece.
You know what I like about the top wrapping, and a lot of people say other things that it makes your bending easier. But one thing I like is, to me, when you put the strings that way, it's like it's pulling the tail out. But if you pull it over, it's like it's pushing it in. So it's
and
well, in the body.
And people say it doesn't really matter, but your strings are vibrating through here, and like with the top car of the late '80s Les Pauls, you can get the tailpiece right down if you top wrap. So my tailpiece is touching the body all the way across. And in my mind anyway, okay, like this is all opinion.
Exactly.
Different horses for different courses, I guess. I think more vibration between the aluminium tailpiece across the body gives me a little bit more, sustain and tone. I play 11 gauge strings. With the reduced break angle, it gives me a little bit more slink, so they feel kind of like 10s.
Well, there's funny a story in that because, people say, why do people do it? But if you see the original Les Paul advertisement, the first tailpiece was on the Les Paul Custom in 1954.
Yeah, 54, 55, yeah.
Exactly, and if you see those original pictures of the catalogue, it's actually top-wrapped. And it probably was top-wrapped because the original tailpieces were your actual bridge. So when they put it back, they probably it was a natural thing to do it.
Yeah.
But, people have asked Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, why do you top-wrap? And he always says, I got the guitar like that. And he just never changes. So there was no magic in it. People go, oh, well, if Billy Gibbons does it, we'll do it in this. But he just said, well, it come that way and I've never changed it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's, like I said before, different horses for different courses. Exactly. There are some players that top wrap the lower strings and don't top wrap the higher strings. There's players that do the opposite.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in do what feels good for you.
Exactly.
Don't believe the hype. Make your own hype.
Exactly.
We've, I've replaced the knobs. They had the original black speed knobs on it. I just thought the reflectors looked a little sexier. So,
it does look good,
and that's kind of a hallmark back to from the 1960 on. Now
you did the pots.
I did the pots. They're CTS 500 XL pots. Now most of them are reading close to 550. With the 500 XL, CTS takes a really great point. They're going to read at least 500. A lot of times when you buy pots from Gibson or CTS or whatever, they'll say a 500K pot, they might read
450,
390,
That's actually a really good point because pots, make a big difference in the tone. Even when you're at number 10, there is still a bit of leakage through the pots, So the whole thing is, if you've got a pot which is supposed to be 500 and it's only 400, it's going to make your guitar sound darker.
Yeah, well,
and that's why a lot of people, when they do the pots, if they get a set, if they're 500 and they're 550, they'll put the 550 in the neck, so your neck doesn't sound too dark. You get that bit of a brighter punch, and that is the problem. Why you get little bits of a tone difference through the humbuckers, depending on brightness or darkness, because your pot.
Well, I'm running the CTS 500 XLs in all 4 pots, and a lot of people say, oh geez, my guitar's sounding too dark or too bright, maybe I should change the pickups. It's like, no, change your pots and caps first and see what happens, because you might find pleasantly surprised, where instead of spending $500-600 for a set of boutique pickups,
spend $100 on that and
I'll plug a couple other guys out there. Like my harness, a lot of the harness that I have in mind was done by a guy, Jonesy Blues Tone Mojo. I don't know what he is now. Jonesy Blues Custom Shop or Mojo Tone. He does some really nice harnesses. I've had harnesses from I think they're defunct now, but Martin 6-string Customs guy by the name of Matt Martin was doing some nice USA made stuff, but I don't think he's around anymore. RS Guitar Works do a really nice harness. Slash uses a few RS harnesses and stuff. They're a bit on the pricey end, but they are what they are.
At the end of the day, it's components. I mean, CTS do like a vintage set. They've got their modern sets, they've got their 550 sets. So the thing is, if you've got a good electronics whiz, they can build you a good set.
Yeah, well, this one's kind of hodgepodge. Like the toggle switch and all the wiring from the toggle switch to the pots is bone stock.
Right.
My pots.
Look, if it hasn't broken,
that's it.
It's a switch.
Switchcraft switch.
Perfect.
Standard Gibson wiring straight through to the pickups.
Yeah.
The pots have been replaced, and now here we come to the controversial bit. The capacitors. Snake oil. Okay, in here I have late 50s Bumblebee capacitors.
Do not pay $100 for a set of Bumblebees. Ridiculous.
Now, I mean, the capacitors I have in this guitar probably cost me $120. Okay, or 120 euro. So, in American dollars at the time, probably about $160, $170.
Even if you want to believe in a little bit of the snake oil, you can get the Russian they call it a PO or paper in oil cap. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And you can get them for about $7 or €7 thereabouts.
And the big, there was a lot of kerfuffle a few years ago, with the 50s Bumblebees paper and oil capacitors. Well, people didn't realize that they were also doing Mylar capacitors from 1958 into 1960s. So some of the Holy Grail bursts actually have Mylar capacitors in them.
The Black Beauties.
Yeah, and also, I will go on record by saying, do not overpay if you want Bumblebees. Do not buy the Gibson Bumblebees. They are not real Bumblebee capacitors.
No.
They are ceramic capacitors hidden in a Bumblebee casing.
Right. Be warned. You've been warned.
Now, I was an official Gibson guitar specialist at a music store. I've dealt with Gibson stock for a few years. I know from which I speak.
Very true.
If you're going to buy the Bumblebees, spend the money, get the real deal. They're out there. But, again, I've had orange drop capacitors. I've had the little chiclet capacitors in here, and they all do the same thing.
Yeah, it's your pots. It's not the capacitor. I think the pot is the bigger thing there.
Yeah, it's a combination of everything. People will say, oh, it's one thing that gives you the tone. It's a soup. Everything. You've got your woods, you got your pickups, you got your amp. You got your, the speaker, everything, comes into play.
Yeah.
And don't let anybody out there tell you need to spend thousands of dollars or thousands of euros for one particular thing to make your tone.
No, and everything that Kevin's done to this guitar, you can do to, the cheaper guitars, whether it's an Epiphone, you've got the American cheaper brands.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Of
a Les Paul style or an SG style. If it's a humbucker guitar, what Kevin's done to this guitar, you can do to yours.
Yeah, and pretty much, like the likes of which, the tailpiece and things like that. If you have an imported guitar, you want a metric space tailpiece. Now, Pigtail, even though the owner and creator of these has passed away, the company is still going strong.
Brilliant.
They're still doing stuff. But there are companies out there, Tone Pros, Callahan.
Tone Pros, very good.
A bunch of other companies.
Slash uses them, Zach Wild uses them.
They're all good.
His stuff, yeah.
But what was I going to say there? Lost my head. But no, it doesn't matter. But all this stuff can be done. They do make these for metric space guitars.
Yeah.
I haven't replaced the bridge. The bridge is a stock bridge. I'll give a quick shout out to Jerry Hayes at Hayes Guitars for saving my bridge for another few years. It was buckled a little bit, and he managed to straighten it out. Yeah. But I've had the bone nut put on it, and all this stuff. My guitar sounded great when I got it. Mm. This was all done because I wanted to have it done. And, the pickups went through because I was a gigging player. I was crapping out pickups. I was in search for that tone. And now that I've found that tone, I'm kind of happy with it. I don't think I'm going to do anything else with it.
Brilliant. Well, you're happy with the tone of the guitar. That's the main thing. I mean, the whole thing is a lot of people get caught up in the small particulars of listening to records and go, I want to get that tone. But what people miss out on is that that's been produced. It's gone through a soundboard where some guy is putting a little bit more treble or putting a bit more bass. You're not hearing the guitar through the amp. Yeah. So, to me, if you're close enough is good enough. And you should be looking for your own tone. It's all about having fun, not trying to reproduce 100% of what the last guy said.
No, you can sound enough like, look, if you like somebody and you want to sound like them, sound inspired by them. Don't copy them.
Well, a classic example of that is actually people wanting Jimmy Page's tone, and one guy looking for that was Joe Perry. If you listen to Aerosmith, he doesn't sound like Page, but he created his own tone, and then you had Slash who come along who wanted Joe Perry's tone.
Yeah, he wanted Joe Perry's tone.
And he's created his own tone, so in effect you've got three guys with different tones who were copying each other, but they all sound great.
Like trademark tones, and look, I was guilty of it for a long time. Like for years, I never touched my volume or tone knobs.
Geez,
I'd be listening. I'd be listening to players like Paul Kossoff and Mick Ronson, and stuff like that. These great Les Paul players, even up to the more modern stuff like Billy Duffy from the Cult and things like that. Trying to get these different tones to play these songs and couldn't figure out what I was going wrong.
They're using their tone
checking the amp and stuff like that.
Number 5, just backing off that high treble off the top.
Yeah, or rolling off the volume to get your clean tone and. you know, and then volume swells like David Gilmour, trying to figure out how the hell they were doing these things, and you know, really stumbling across some of the stuff late in life. Like, I'm 47 years old. I've been playing since I was 12, you know, and you know, I haven't gotten any better since I was 13. But you know, it's you know, chasing this stuff and coming into this stuff in my 30s and 40s, like, holy crap, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, it was only after I started tinkering and stuff. And like I said before, I was a moderator of mylespaul.com, which is a great forum. And I was there for a few years and I had a great time. And I learned a lot of valuable information from some really stellar players. Not just the famous guys that are on there, but some really hardcore players out there.
Definitely.
You know, on how to learn things and you know, and try different things and think out of the box. And I've gone, you know, you can't see behind this couch, but yeah, like, I do play a vintage app. I've got a 1974 or 75 orange OR120, which is the loudest single channel amp I've ever played through in my life. And that's why it's not being played right now, because you wouldn't hear anything else.
Exactly.
But, you know, and that's been on a long-term loan from a very good friend of mine, which he'll eventually get it back when he asks for it. But I'm going to hold on to it until he wants it back. But I'm playing, like I said, I'm playing through a Roland Cube 80 now, because you know, that's where I am at the point of my playing. And, you know, I dig it, and it's a great, now unfortunately they've been discontinued.
Great practice amp.
But it was good enough for Randy Rhoads. You know, his practice app, you know, and Robert Smith from The Cure uses Cube 80s on stage.
There you go.
And
It's, if you're happy with the tone, that's the main thing.
Yeah, you know, and you know, and it does, you know, it does. I don't gig anymore. I play at home. And
well, on that note, let's play these.
Sure, yeah, no worries.
So we'll come up with a little jam, shall we?
Sure, yeah, I'll dirty up a little bit.
Guys, thanks very much for watching again.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for coming down to Wexford.
Thanks very much, Kev, for joining me.
I'm Dan.
And Dan's brother.
Yeah. I'm Dan's skinny little brother.
That's it. Anyway, we'll catch you later.
Take care.